So today we're going to present the update for Chaos Labs as part of the MakerDAO SES Incubation Program. We'll do a quick recap of things we touched on in the last presentation, which was the intro, talk about progress we've made since then, and then Yonatan will do a short technical demo, and we'll
answer some questions after that.
Yeah, leave some spots for questions. So we'll get started. We're going to go into our presentation. Let us know if you can see our slides. Can you see the slides?
No, Nadeed, you gotta share. You get use the share buttons. There's a share button. If you hover over your own icon, there's a share button.
Here.
Let's see.
It gives us our social stats. Here, I think I see it here on the top. Share screen. Yeah. So we'll do it like this. Now you should be able to see our presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Cool. So Chaos Labs is part of the Maker SES program. Just a quick overview of what we are and what we're doing. Chaos Labs is a cloud platform where we run agent and scenario-based simulations to test the economic robustness of DeFi protocols. So for the chains that we support, we fork them in our cloud, and then we have agents which simulate end-to-end, basically users on mainnet. You can mock them quickly or create them based on your own needs, and they interface directly with smart contracts that exist on mainnet forks. We have scenarios. Scenarios are more like macro changes which we enable in the context of a simulation. So it could be gas prices, latency on transaction pickup, and also recently finished with partnerships with Chainlink and Uniswap, where in the context of simulations, you have granular control over the return values of oracles. In the context of what we're about to show now, we also built support for maker oracles, where we override the oracle security model in order to be able to control the prices of assets. Lastly, we have teams that use this for optimizing parameter selection as they're updating their protocols. And we can also use this in CI since everything is cloud-based. So connected to your GitHub repo or Bitbucket, and every time you push, have automated tests running in the cloud to detect regressions. Cool. So about 2 quarters ago, we joined the SES incubation program, and really like the first step here was what we were proposing to do was build a development environment and a testing environment for all of Maker, where they can run complex simulations and basically validate the correctness and quality of code before it's being pushed to production. That was the proposal. Obviously, this is very difficult to do. It's even something that was attempted to be done in-house several years ago. And due to a lot of technical kind of constraints, it was deemed unsuccessful at the time. So before getting started with everything, we started with basic research. We spoke to a bunch of teams within Maker, some of them already independent core units, other teams that were in the SES already, and really tried to understand what their biggest pain points were in developing quality code for the Maker protocol. So this is more detailed in the previous talk, but we really spoke to all the teams, and really the stepping stones towards our working POC after this initial user research was within talks with the core protocol engineering team, and then later Sidestream. So when we spoke to the core protocol engineering team, we specifically spoke to Chris Mooney, who at the time was playing around with Hardhat in a JavaScript development environment, and they were trying to build some type of environment that would allow them to kind of trigger liquidations. They had done some really cool, Chris specifically had done some really cool things. We jumped on a call with Sidestream as well, and listened to it. And basically he walked us through kind of the initial POC that he had built. And we decided this was an excellent kind of point to build on top of, because it seemed that there are already 2 candidates who needed this. One was a core protocol engineering team who was looking for better tooling, better ways to manipulate the state of chain in testing environments, and then also Sidestream, which offers like an auctioning service, and then basically needed a good way to be able to kind of test their application without going through the tedious workflows of working with public testnets. So that's what we did. We looked at Chris's code. We used it as a jump-off point, and then use our internal tooling to basically write integrations and cloud integrations for the Maker protocol in the Chaos Cloud. The end result of this was basically an environment in which you can spin up a mainnet fork from a specific block in the past or up to date from today, control the prices of assets that are being used as collateral. In our case, it's important to drop them, which triggers underwater collateralized debt positions, so positions that need to be liquidated, and then test how keepers are working, how auctions are working once the state is ripe for liquidations. So as we said, after kind of the initial inspiration from the core protocol engineering team, we spoke to Sidestream, who was releasing new features and working on improving their current offering. And we did the POC with them, which is currently underway towards the end. And I think now is a good time to jump into like a technical demo where we show what it is that that Sidestream is using. I will say this, that what we're showing you is a screen. What we will show you is a screen share of the app itself. Right now, due to kind of security concerns, Sidestream is using this through like an API. So they have complete access to the functionality via the API and not yet the platform. In the future, we'll also roll out open support for using basically the UI. So Yonatan will now do a quick demo of what we built for Sidestream.
Yeah, so let's go into the demo. I'm opening here the dashboard here. As you can see, we are in the Maker domain, and this is where we can see the first initial overview of like the system. We can see the little die, information like that. So inside the portal, you can create multiple dashboards. Depends on what you need. We have a dashboard here that shows us the Oracle prices within the Maker system. And then we can also see just like overview of information, like the loan limits and stuff like that. So that's the first thing you can see. So all information you're seeing right now comes directly from the mainnet. But when we fork, when we create a new fork and we create a simulation, we can connect all this information directly to the fork because we're bringing all this information directly from the chain. So all what you see here as a mainnet monitoring, you can also see as an insights into the simulations inside the fork. So that's that. And like Omer said, the main thing we do is the simulations, agent-based simulation and scenario-based simulations. So let's see how that looks like. Let's go into agents. So here we have a few maker keepers. How do we create them? We can create an agent like this, maker keeper. And here we have the ability to trigger any action based on a condition. So an action is a call to a contract. For example, we parsed some of the contracts that we uploaded to the system. Let's take dog, and we can call bark. And here we automatically know how many parameters and which we need to call for. So we can fill them in here. And then the condition. Condition is when do we trigger this action? So for example, let's say the price of ETH drops below 1,000, and maybe DAI drops out of its peg. So let's do something like that. So in that case, we want to trigger the action above. So that's one way to create an agent. Another way is through scripting. For example, here we can see the Maker Keeper. It's actually a more complex script when you can upload and you can configure it through this portal. For example, this Maker Keeper is watching those different ilks and trying to liquidize them if they're eligible for that. So that's the agents, and we have scenarios. Scenarios are, like Omer said, the macro changes to the environment. For example, the Maker liquidations. So we have this scenario where we drop the prices of these ilks by a factor of 60% of the original price. This is what's going to start the entire process of liquidations in our simulation later on. So we have that. Also inside the scenarios, we have the ability to configure Oracle prices here. Let's take chaining, for example. So you can pick any token pair and then like select the initial value and the state of the change. So this is another way to configure it. And all of that drills down to the simulation. So inside the simulation, we want to make sure that something happened. For instance, we want to make sure that the liquidations happened in the simulation. So this is the same UI as we have in the agent. We create some test assertion, describe what it does. And then for the same interface, you can create You can just say what you want to check for, if you want to say if it happened once or during the entire simulation is invariant. So that's all pretty cool. Let's see how it plays out. So if we go to our main page, and we have 2 simulations here ready. This is, for example, a simulation we did for SideStream, which trigger liquidation. So we load it. We can see it's initializing, and we're spinning a new fresh fork on our cloud. And now the simulation is started. So the simulation can take a few minutes because we're triggering the prices Oracle drop, and then we're trying to liquidize all the vaults. So we can go here to the terminal where we're streaming all the information from the fork blockchain, and we can see what's going on here. We can actually see all the calls and transactions being sent. But because this is going to take a while to happen, so let's go to our simulation history and look. And this at the top, you can see the simulation that is still running, but we can go to a simulation we ran just an hour ago. So we can see the agents we've used, the maker keeper, and the scenarios was setting balance for the keeper and triggering liquidations. We have 3 assertions here. We want to assert that ETH and this kind of ETH and Matic are actually liquidized in these vaults. And if we go down, we can see information of each assertion. So the assertion was successful, meaning those liquidations actually triggered. So that's one VNet. And we can go back here. So the simulation is still running while we speak, but that's the overview of the system so far.
And currently, SideStream has access to this via an API. So we provided an API key for SideStream and a little REST API where they can kind of control the state of the simulations, and they're currently using it in order to test their auctioning software. So that has been something that's ongoing with SideStream and converging. Additionally, we're also collaborating with another, I guess now core unit in Maker, which is Immunify. And we're providing a sandbox environment for researchers to work on Maker. So one of kind of the challenges for all hackers and researchers as they participate in different white hat bounty programs and different protocols is that setup takes a long time. And they often wanted to test kind of specific test cases within a protocol. And we're basically giving them the tools, everything in a cloud-based fashion, in order to kind of spin up the environment quickly, be able to control it, and really focus on the research that they're trying to do versus spending time on configuration and setup. So that's kicking off, slated for end of next week. Lastly, so basically the next steps as it pertains to the program is that we are finishing the POC with SideStream. We're going to launch the POC as well with Immunify, and the next steps are that we're converging towards basically preparing a MIP, writing documentation in order to present to the wider Maker community, and hopefully graduate to an independent core unit.
All right, thank you guys. We have 2 questions asked right now. I think you can see them as well. Let me read the first one of them. Could you use an agent to call actions in mainnet as well? That's a question from Juan.
So yes, we could, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to create a sandbox where you can do everything you've done in production with all the state and all of that, where you can play around and test scenarios you wouldn't try in production. So you wouldn't try to liquidize, or you can because you cannot control the Oracle prices, but you can do anything you're doing in the simulations on the production environment on mainnet.
Yeah, so basically the strength of the software that we're building and the tools is that kind of different than other players in the space. Everything is built off of a mainnet fork. So even all the analytics and the dashboards that we showed you in the beginning, they also work for production. We just need to point to the mainnet RPC URL. And the same goes for the agents. So if that's a use case that's important for the community, it's trivial to support it. You just need to connect your wallet, and all the scripting works because, like we said, it's the same exact. It's a fork. It's the same exact interface as mainnet.
Juan is also adding a comment. I was thinking about using it as a keeper.
Yeah, you could build keepers here. I mean, that's basically what we did here is we had to build a keeper internally to liquidate the vaults. And you could have many keepers and basically test different heuristics for when they liquidate vaults and then see the outcomes. So there is a whole aspect here of maybe less relevant to Maker, maybe more. We'll see of MEV. MEV kind of definitely like kind of in the ARPS front, but that's more DEX oriented, but also in the liquidations and basically building keepers and trying to also build heuristics to decide when the right time is to liquidate a vault.
Thank you. Next question is from Wouter. Is an agent action recurring? Could a bad condition spam new actions every block?
Yes. So that's like one of the basically the challenges that we're working on right now. And that's why it's API access and not like full access to the system. Basically, our cloud has access to like a lot of compute. And right now, we're working on building safeguards into limiting that. Because it could be either by mistake or not by mistake, but people can set up agents that can completely spam the network and like consume a lot of CPU. So that's like a challenge. We're working on building a sandbox for the sandbox. But yeah, that's in progress.
Thank you. Last question from Wouter. How are you dealing with the Oracle security module, which introduces a delay?
So we thought of a few options. The one we went for is we can actually, the security model just gives you 1 hour where the price does not change. So at the initial state, we tried to just warp in time in the concept simulation 1 hour into the future. And that's what we did here. Another thing we eventually found out which was better for us was just go directly to where the price is stored within those contracts and change it there in the concept simulation, thus overriding the price that would have been provided in the next hour.
Yeah, so when you're running a lot of these like Ethereum nodes, and you have access to these different frameworks, in our case it's hard hat, but you can do it with other frameworks, you can directly write to storage. So that's what we ended up doing. We just directly write to storage and change the prices in that way.
Thank you. Another question from Juan. Can you touch upon the roadmap a bit more? What's coming in the next 6 to 12 months?
So, I mean, there's a lot coming, like for Chaos Labs. Like I think since we started the SES, the team has grown by a factor of 10, which sounds like a lot, but that's only because it was just me initially. But we're planning on, I think this year we're going to be over 30 engineers. And we want to basically be able to support all of the scenarios for Maker, and we want everything to be like well tested, things that already exist, and also as the protocol continues to develop. So there's going to be we plan on investing a lot of resources into building the right tooling, simulations, and analytics for Maker for that. In the shorter time frame, it's basically creating a MIP and hopefully graduating from the SES program into an official core unit of Maker.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Do we have any other questions from our viewers today? If not, then thank you very much, guys, for your time. Great presentation, great progress in the project. Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend.